In this lesson, we're going to talk about adding and subtracting mixed numbers. There are two different methods that you can use. Method one is to change the fractions into improper fractions, find a common denominator, add or subtract, and then at the very end, change it back to a mixed number. I personally do not like method one because you end up with really large numbers in some of the questions, and so it's easy to make a mistake. However, with method two, your numbers are smaller, and to me, it's just easier. But again, you're welcome to use either method. For these notes, I'm going to teach you how to use method two. So my first step is to rewrite subtraction as addition if necessary. I write the larger number on top, and that's according to the whole numbers, not the fractional part. So you want to make sure you keep the fraction and the whole number together. We are going to add or subtract the fractions depending on the integer sign. We're going to add or subtract the whole numbers depending on the integer sign. And then, if necessary, we rewrite the solution as a mixed number and or simplify. So let's get to it. In example one, I have -7 4/9 plus -10 2/9. I want you to write the larger number on top. So I know that I am going to add because the signs are the same. I didn't have to rewrite this problem because it was already addition. So I have 10 2/9, and I'm adding 7 4/9. So what we're going to do now is we're going to add the fractional part. 2/9 plus 4/9 gives me 6/9. 10 plus 7 gives me 17. Both of my numbers were originally negative, so I know that my final solution is negative. The only thing I need to do now is simplify my fraction. Both of these numbers can be divided by 3. So my final answer is -17 2/3. If I were to change these to improper fractions, it would have taken me a lot longer. Still possible to solve the problem. It would just take longer. Number two, I have -1 2/3 plus 5 1/3. I do not need to rewrite this problem because it's already written as addition. However, because the signs are different, I know I need to subtract. So different signs means to subtract. We want to write the larger fraction on top. So 5 is bigger than 1. So we're going to put 5 1/3, 1 2/3. And again, I'm subtracting because my signs are different. Now, I cannot do 1/3 minus 2/3. Can't do it. So we need to rename the fraction, or think of it kind of like regrouping. So instead of 5 1/3, I'm going to take a whole part or a whole number away from the 5, and that's going to change to 4. And then because I took one whole away from 5, it's like adding 3/3. So I now have 4 4/3 minus 1 1/3, which I can do. 4/3 minus 1/3 gives me 2/3. 4 minus 1 gives me 3. When I look at my numbers, 5 is positive and it's bigger than -1. So my final answer is +3 2/3. Let's try another one. Let's look at example 3. I have -5 5/6 minus -16. So this is a problem that I do need to rewrite as addition. Instead of -5 5/6 minus -16, keep, change. My new problem is -5 5/6 plus +16. Because my signs are different, I need to subtract. Different signs, so I'm going to subtract and keep the sign of the larger number. 16 is bigger, so my final answer is going to be positive. Put the larger whole number on top, so I need to do 16 minus 5 5/6. I don't have a fractional part for this problem. It's like saying 0.6. So if it's 0 minus 5, I have to borrow or regroup it. So instead of 16, I'm going to change that to a 15 and add 6/6 to it. So now I have 15 6/6. I'm sorry, not addition. We are subtracting because our signs are different. Minus 5 5/6. So now I can subtract. I'm going to start with the fractional part. 6 minus 5 gives me 1, and I keep my denominator. 15. 15 minus 5 gives me 10. And again, I know my final answer is positive because 16 is positive. And so that is my final solution. Didn't even have to simplify. One more example. So I have -3 and 5/6 minus -2 and 3/4. I need to rewrite subtraction as addition. Keep, change, change. So my problem is now -3 and 5/6 plus 2 and 3/4. I know I'm going to subtract because the signs are different. My final answer is going to be negative. And because 3 is bigger than 2, I'm going to write -3 on top. 3 and 5/6 minus 2 and 3/4. So when I try to subtract the fractional part, I can't do it because I don't have a common denominator. When I look at 6 and 4, my common denominator is 12. I need to multiply the numerator and the denominator by 2 for my 5/6. And I'm doing that because 6 times 2 is 12. And when I look at the bottom, 4 times 3 is 12. So I'm going to multiply the numerator and the denominator times 3. So my new problem is 3 and 10/12 minus 2 and 9/12. Now I can subtract. 10 minus 9 is 1, and I keep my denominator. 3 minus 2 is 1. For this problem, there are more negatives than there are positives, so I know that my final answer is -1 and 1/12. Please make sure you copy these examples down. Go ahead and try the practice problems on the back.